Hi there guys, I'm Nikhil from GreedyTech and this is the unboxing of the Xiaomi's Redmi Note 6 Pro. Now this is the box and this is the latest disappointment from Xiaomi in the name of Note 6 Pro, which actually resembles the Redmi Note 5 Pro a lot. Now just for a quick comparison, this is the Redmi Note 5 Pro in my right hand and it looks pretty much similar to the Redmi Note 6 Pro. All this new Note 6 Pro has to offer is a slightly redesigned back panel with a new display notch and a pretty huge chin at the bottom, just like the Note 5 Pro. Now besides that, you're also getting the same Snapdragon 636 processor with Qualcomm Quick Charge 3.0 support and still no quick charger inside the box. And finally, you are getting new cameras and an extra camera on the front for the portrait selfie. So now let's see what this new phone has to offer and how different it is from the Redmi Note 5 Pro. Now on the box, it is saying India's #1 smartphone brand with a quick preview of how the phone looks with different colors. By the way, this is the black color. I tried to get the red color, but for some reason I was not able to get it at all. Like it was not even adding to the cart. So it might be available in the coming weeks. Now coming to the back, we have the Made in India sticker, IMEI numbers, storage variant and color information. And over here we have the most highlighting features. That's the dual front facing camera, dual camera on the rear, the new aspect ratio and the same Snapdragon 636 processor. So without any more further delays, let's just get on with the unboxing of this boring phone. Now I say specifically boring because seriously, Redmi Note series, especially with the Note 4 to Note 5, there wasn't any major change except for the display aspect ratio. And the same thing is once again happening with this Note 6 Pro, which is really disappointing. While brands like Realme are coming up with insanely awesome designs, way powerful processors, way cheaper than this phone. And Xiaomi is really losing its spark. Like in the initial years, they tried to offer you the best hardware at the cheapest price, but right now, not so much. Now this phone will be sold online exclusively on Flipkart in two variants. Base variant is priced at 14,000 rupees for 4GB of RAM and 16GB of storage. And the next variant is priced at 16,000 rupees for 6GB of RAM and the same 64GB of storage. It is available in 4 colors, red, black, blue and rose gold, and we have the black color. So guys, at the top we have the phone itself. Let me just put that aside for now. Now going on next, we have a cardboard case kind of a thing, a SIM card ejector over here. They have redesigned the SIM card ejector, which is once again boring. Next we have the documentation and the free silicone case. So at the top we have the user guide, that's followed by some warranty information. And here's a soft silicone pouch in the black color, which I really appreciate. Going on next, we have the regular 10 watts power adapter. So this one does support fast charging, but as I've said, it's a regular charger. If you want fast charging, you have to invest like 500 or so to get a Qualcomm certified charger. I suggest you to get a quick charger from Xiaomi itself. You can get it on mi.com. Now finally, we have the micro USB charging cable. So these are all the contents of the box, and as usual, there are no earphones or headphones inside the box. So let me just pack it up and come back to the phone. So here's the phone, and on the front, it boasts about all the new changes it brings except for the processor. So let me just peel that off. Now coming to the back, once again we have another sticker with IMEI numbers, a warning information and so on. And we have another sticker at the bottom. By the way, we can remove all these stickers, it definitely won't affect your warranty. And definitely makes your device look more premium. Please don't keep those stickers. I've seen many people doing that. Anyway, this is how the phone looks on the back and this is how the phone looks on the front. Now let's have a quick physical overview and then check out the specs. Now on the back, this phone has a metal back panel with an anti-fingerprint coating and plastic strips at the top and bottom for antennas. Now unlike the Redmi Note 5 Pro, it has a slightly redesigned back with curved edges for the metal back panel just like the Moto phones, and the rest of it is pretty much similar. And even these buttons are made of plastic, but they are sufficiently elevated and have a nice clicky feel to them. I hope you can hear the sound. Anyway, at the top we have the dual camera setup with a 12 megapixel primary camera with f1.9 aperture. That's followed by a 5 megapixel secondary camera with f2.2 aperture for depth sensing. That's used exclusively to take portrait shots. At the center, it has the dual LED flash. Now this camera module, just like the previous Note 5 Pro, has a small bump to it and the phone does wobble a little if you use it without a case. Now besides this camera module, we have the fingerprint scanner and at the bottom we have MI branding and it says designed by Xiaomi. Now on the front, it has a 6.26 inch display with Full HD Plus resolution in the new 19:9 aspect ratio with 403 ppi, 500 nits of brightness, protected by a 2.5D curved Corning Gorilla Glass. Version is not mentioned, it's probably Corning Gorilla Glass 3. At the top, it has a pretty interesting design with a pretty huge display notch, sensors on the left side, earpiece at the center, and on the right side it has a dual camera setup with a 20 megapixel front-facing camera with f2.0 aperture and a 2 megapixel secondary camera with f2.2 aperture for depth sensing. At the bottom it is completely plain with a pretty huge chin. Now following that, on the right side it has the power and volume buttons. At the top it has the IR blaster followed by the secondary microphone for noise cancellation and a 3.5mm audio jack. On the left side it has a SIM card tray housing a nano SIM slot along with a hybrid SD card slot. So once again Xiaomi decided to drop a dedicated SD card slot on their famous Note series. Now finally at the bottom it has two speaker grills, one for the microphone and another one for a mono speaker, and at the center it has the same old micro USB charging port. Now coming to the rest of the specifications, under the hood it sports the same Snapdragon 636 processor with Adreno 509 GPU seen on the Redmi Note 5 Pro. The variant I have comes with 4GB of RAM and 64GB of storage, and all the variants come with the same 4000 mAh battery with support fast charging but comes with a regular 10W port adapter inside the box. Now one interesting thing about this phone would be the entire form factor and the design. It has a thickness of just 8.26mm, so it feels pretty sleek. And even though this phone weighs almost 185 grams because of good weight distribution, it doesn't feel all that heavy in hand. So when compared to Redmi Note 5 Pro, which also weighs about 185 grams, this phone definitely feels much more lighter. Now this is the free case that we got inside the box. We have been getting similar thing for all the Xiaomi phones recently. I guess it started with Redmi Note 5. Now this is how the phone looks with the free case on. It definitely gives you some additional grip and looks pretty cool because of the black color. But it is not offering any kind of protection for the camera module or the display. So the camera module is still exposed and I would definitely suggest you to get a better case as soon as possible. So with that said, let me just turn on the phone and see what we get right out of the box and what's new on this phone. So guys, this is how the phone looks once we turn it on. It is still running MIUI version 9.6 based on Android 8.1 Oreo, and it has already got the MIUI 10 update. So I'll be updating it and getting back to you in a minute. So guys, now I've updated the phone to the latest version and it is still running Android 8.1.0, that's Oreo, with a custom skin called MIUI 10.0.4, that's the latest version, and it has the latest October security patch, which is pretty good. Let's check the amount of free RAM that we get right out of the box. So after installing MIUI 10, out of that 4GB of RAM, we have about 2.3GB of free RAM right out of the box. Now coming to storage, out of that 64GB of space, you get about 51.47 GB or 51.47 GB of space for your user apps and user data, which is definitely more than sufficient. Just like all the previous Xiaomi phones, this phone comes with all the basic sensors and it also supports dual SIM with dual 4G and dual LTE, and it also has support for native video calling, and it also comes with the infrared blaster, which everyone loves and likes, which also includes me. Now this is a camera interface and we have a dedicated button over here at the top for AI mode. Once you enable it, it simply detects the scenes. They have about 36 different scenes, and once it detects a scene, it enhances the image. Most of the time we can see that the colors simply pop out a lot more when the AI mode is enabled. Now besides this little addition, rest of the things are pretty much the same. We can swipe left or right to switch between different modes. Now coming to video recording, we can record only at 1080p, that's the maximum resolution, at 30 fps. And it also has image stabilization, which is pretty good. Now coming to the portrait mode, here's the interface. Once again, we have the AI mode even for the portrait mode. And after we take a picture, here's a quick sample image. Now this is a portrait image, and as you can see, we are getting a nice blur effect. Starting with this phone, we'll see a new feature which allows us to change the amount of background blur effect we get. So if you want to change the amount of background blur effect, you can just do it like this. If you don't like the blur effect, or if you want to reduce the intensity, you can reduce it like this. Next we have light trails, and it really looks pretty cool. So you get all these different kinds of effects, and you can save this particular instance as an image or save it as a video. And we have a few more stuff as well, and they all look pretty good. Next we have the regular studio lighting effects, and these are the results. I guess with a human subject it makes more sense. Now this is the interface for the front facing camera. Nothing new over here. Once again we have the AI mode at the top, and it simply enhances the images, makes colors look a little bit popped out and more appealing, pleasing to the eyes. So there isn't anything new over here except for that AI mode. Next we have the regular portrait selfie mode, and unlike the rear camera, we can't change the background blur effect for this, so that's a thing. Now these are the sample pictures taken using the front and rear cameras. Now I've already set up face unlock and fingerprint scanner, so let's test them out. First would be the fingerprint scanner, and it's pretty fast. Not super duper fast, but pretty fast, like the second best thing out there. And that's including all the flagships. So fingerprint scanner is definitely pretty fast, like the second best thing in the world, at least in the devices that I've used. Now coming to face unlock, here's a quick preview, and here we go. It works. It's not super fast, but it is pretty much usable. I am able to see the lock screen. So now I'm going to turn off the lights and see how it works in low lighting conditions. And it still works, but it's taking probably like a second or two, which I think is still manageable. Okay, now it's working faster, I guess. So guys, face unlock is also working without any issues. In good lighting conditions, it's probably taking like half a second, and in bad lighting and low lighting conditions, it's taking about a second, which is still pretty good. Now, this phone, just like all the previous Xiaomi phones, comes with the same set of features, except for a few camera features. Everything is pretty much the same. You can find all these features in other Xiaomi phones as well. So if you don't like this notch, you can go to the settings, then select full screen display. Now enable this toggle to hide the notch. You'll just get a black background and it simply doesn't stick out to your face that much. Now we also have the famous gestures, probably the best implementation I've ever seen. Now you can swipe up to go home, swipe and hold for recent apps. So these are all the recent applications. A very nice, convenient view, I guess. Now you can swipe left or right to go back, and you also get this cool animation. On the whole, the gestures on this phone, or the gesture implementation on this phone, is probably the best I've seen in an Android phone. So those were the gestures and the option to hide the notch. Now let's test the speaker loudness. So guys, this phone has the speaker under the right grill, and under the left grill, we have the primary microphone. Now this is the speaker loudness. Now let's test some vocals or...
Hi there guys, a few important stuff which I won't be covering in this video, so definitely check out that video, link will be in the description. Now with that said, the first best feature about this phone would definitely be its display. On the front, it is a massive 6.3-inch IPS display with Full HD Plus resolution in the new 19.5:9 aspect ratio with a display notch.
So guys, the speaker on this phone is sufficiently loud for media consumption, ringtones and alarms. It is probably like the second or third best in terms of speaker loudness. It's not super loud, but it is sufficiently loud for sure. Now for a very quick comparison, on the left side I have the Redmi Note 6 Pro, and on the right side I have the Redmi 6 Pro. So here's the difference. On the Redmi 6 Pro, display is slightly warmer and it's gonna be like that forever. So if you want better color reproduction, Redmi Note 5 Pro is definitely better. And as you can see, the bottom notch on 6 Pro is definitely much larger than the Note 6 Pro. Well, Note 6 Pro isn't the best, but it's slightly better than the 6 Pro. Now coming to the notch, Redmi 6 Pro definitely has a smaller notch, but if you look at the bezels all around, comparatively Redmi Note 6 Pro has smaller bezels. So out of these two phones, obviously Redmi Note 6 Pro is definitely better, but if we just look at the Redmi Note 6 Pro and the overall bezels, it's not doing a great job. Phones from Vivo and Oppo have much smaller bezels, and the latest Honor 8X has an insanely smaller bezel at the bottom, while this phone has a pretty huge bezel even right now. Now before I conclude, these are the Antutu and Geekbench scores. So guys, this is the new Redmi Note 6 Pro. Just like the Redmi Note 5, even this phone, at least in my opinion, is a huge disappointment, as this phone didn't bring anything new. Like the back panel, no one cares, it's not unibody metal design, so no point in even talking about it. Coming to the display, it's not a water drop notch, it's the regular notch, a pretty huge notch with pretty huge bezels all around, a huge disappointment. For me, the biggest downside and the major reason not to consider this phone would be the performance. Now the Snapdragon 636 processor on this phone is definitely pretty good, pretty powerful, but it's the same processor seen even on the Redmi Note 5 Pro, which was launched like 8 months ago. So something better, something like a Snapdragon 660 would have made more sense and a much attractive deal, considering phones like Realme 2 Pro, even the Honor 8X are offering better performance than the Snapdragon 636. So as of now, that's like the major downside for this Redmi Note 6 Pro. So guys, what do you think about this phone? If you already have something like a Redmi Note 5 Pro, will you consider upgrading to this phone? Or if you're planning to buy a phone under 15,000 rupees, will you consider this phone or phones like Realme 2 Pro or the Honor 8X? Do let me know by commenting below this video, and if you're planning to buy this phone, use the link in the description. It always helps the channel. And if you want us to make any specific video, tweet out to us with the hashtag AskGreedyTech on Twitter and I'll try to make it as soon as possible. I'm Nikhil from GreedyTech signing off. Have a nice day.